Talking Music with Big Andy. This week, Test Card Girl is talking music with me, Big Andy. Welcome to the podcast. This week I have with me Catherine Burgess, otherwise known as Test Card Girl. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Andy. So nice to be here. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very, very much. Now, you started off as a comedian. And
yes.
musical comedian.
I did. I mean, whether we could call me a comedian in the professional sense, I think would be stretching it. I did start to get paid and it was getting somewhere. But I did, yeah. Basically, I sort of had in me this inner performer, but it just wouldn't come out. So I thought, well, what's the scariest possible thing I could do to get myself to stand on stage? And I'm like, there can't be anything worse than trying to make people laugh. And bringing a bit of music that way. So yeah, I just went a bit mad and tried it for a little bit. And I'm glad I found music now because it's still equally nerve-wracking, but there's not that terrible element of, no one's supposed to be laughing at you. So it's a little bit more relaxing.
A bit of a worry if they start laughing at you.
I think if they started laughing, that would be bad in this sense.
What made you decide to change over? Was it always a plan that you wanted to play music or just do straight music?
Pretty much. Well, I mean, I talk about late starters. Like I'm 38, so it's taken me a very, very long time to get here. But I studied music and I was a music teacher for a long time. So I was always like working with young bands in schools and I, talking the talk, like you got to practice, you got to do this. Yeah. And in my own head, I was thinking, right, but you don't ever do what you're telling yourself here. And it kind of really got to lockdown that made me do it. I'd had some song, I had a little songbook. It's a bit sad really, but I've always been tinkering around with ideas and sort of, we're doing garage band stuff on my Mac on my own in my room. Yeah. But I don't know what, sometimes I've heard other people talk about this, but you just get to a stage where you're like, if I don't do this now, I'm just never going to do it. Life's going to take over, or maybe life already has taken over. It's always been sort of secretly a real desire of mine. But my other issue was I had huge nerves about my singing voice. I just couldn't get over the hurdle of singing. And even though I'd had lovely comments about my voice and no one's ever told me it was terrible, just the old inner voice saying it's terrible. So yeah, I had a lot of things to overcome, but finally pulled my finger out and got there.
So you're based in Manchester, was it?
Yes.
Actually right in Manchester or just outside?
Just outside, so we're sort of suburby between Stretford, Urmston, that kind of way. So yeah, not much as I'd love to be in the city centre in a flash apartment. We're a bit more suburban these days.
No, that's fine. So you started doing the musical comedy stuff around 2018.
Yes.
And then decided in 2020, in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. It was worse. It was worse than that, Andy. It was February 2020. It was literally weeks before the entire music industry shut down. I think I did like an open mic night, something like the 18th of February. And I thought, right, this is it. All, 30, however many years of dreams are coming to fruition. And then I think the next, it was March, wasn't it? It all shut down. So a few weeks later, everything stopped. And it was hideous. I mean, but I do feel lucky because, for established musicians and performers, I hadn't made any money, so I had nothing to lose,
It's not
people being paid.
Not necessarily the best time to try starting just a musical career.
it was a complete, well, it's funny, do you know, these things always have a funny way, don't they? Because it was a terrible time to start as a performer, but I was actually a very nervous performer. So what it did make me do was have to like think, well, I can't perform, so I need to go and record. And through the recording, that's where I really, that's what I love the most, the writing and the recording. So because we were stuck at home and, you know, everything else had gone wrong, like I run a little childcare business that had closed, like everything had gone terrible. I think sometimes it takes these extreme situations to motivate you to do something completely bad. So yes, it was good and bad.
So now you play keyboard and guitar, or like a MIDI keyboard?
Yes.
And guitar and sing.
I do. Well, I have to say, I have recently ditched the guitar because I'm really not. I love the guitar, and I love people who play the guitar, but I've got tiny hands, you can see, and I love like finger picking stuff, like folky stuff, and I'm just not very good at it. So, but what I did discover, like I've always loved kind of kids' keyboards, and you know, again, being a bit of a loser growing up, and still, I used to have like headphones on and be messing about with like sort of terrible like Yamaha keyboards, Casio ones, but real like bad ones, but great in a way. We've just been watching Stranger Things. I've been like, oh, every single sound, I'm like, oh my God, love that. And I love that. So what I wanted to find was a keyboard that could recreate the guitar patterns that I really liked. And I have actually landed on the perfect thing from Argos, which is amazing. You wouldn't have thought of that. It's 70 quid. And it's called, for any like keyboard nerds, it's called the Yamaha A50. It's this tiny little thing, literally a toy, but it's got an arpeggiator in it. So, you know, every time you play the chords, it recreates these patterns. And the quality of the sound is really bad, but that's kind of what I look like. It's those real 80s, 90s terrible sounds. So somehow I found my spirit keyboard, which has allowed me to ditch the guitar. And well, maybe one day I'll practice and get better.
Well, I don't know, because what I've seen of you on online playing your guitar, I don't think it's that bad.
I mean, that's really kind, but the sort of the 15 days of anxiety before any of those performances where I'm crying and my fingers are bleeding, I just don't think it's worth it. Rather than naturally sitting down and just noodling away. So, but I'm much more confident on the keyboard, and I think it's kind of like there's loads of great guitarists, and I really admire them, and people who play guitar and sing. But I haven't seen so much, like, there's loads of great like pianists and keyboard players, but I quite like this idea of using keyboards in a slightly different way and layering and looping. So I thought, you know, out of being bad at something, I'll make a good good thing.
You've put out an EP called Fly.
Oh, well, it's actually that's coming out soon. So
is it out yet? Oh, okay.
There's 3 singles. Well, it may as well be, because there's 3 singles out from it. It's going to be 6 tracks, but the single called Fly is out, and it's been a long time coming because obviously pandemic and everything else. But so 3 singles from it are out, including Fly, which is the title track, and then there's 3 more tracks coming down that are finished and coming out soon. So we're just waiting for a release date to put that out, put in the finishing touches. So there will be a full 6-track EP, but the 3 sort of title tracks are out already as singles.
Okay. And you got I forgot this, right? Andy Hargreaves on drums and Nathan Sudders on bass.
Yes. So in a completely non-deserved stroke of luck, Andy, I don't know if you know a band called Am Clute, but so I've always been a massive fan of theirs. And just via, you know, how these things happen, weird Manchester connections and studio connections, I ended up working with Andy Hargreaves, their drummer, who is just the most insane, like I never met a drummer like him. He just plays the whole drum set like an orchestra. It's amazing, and he's been really encouraging of the whole project as well. So more than just a drummer, and he was pals with Nathan Sudders, who plays for Miles Kane and Guy Garvey and all sorts of other people. So as a complete amateur, I've ended up with these two amazing musicians coming in to play, and hopefully we'll at some point do a bit of live stuff. But they just being in the studio with them has been like immense. They've been amazing.
Wow. Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, they're both very experienced and talented musicians. So it must be great working with them.
Well, yeah, and it's sort of, it's just really funny every time we go in, because I will just be sitting there going, what about this? And I'll be like, no, I think we'll just do this and it'll be great. I'm like, oh yeah, just that's brilliant. You do that. But it always works out in the end. And they're just, I think, like, because they've worked at such a high level, it's just been really, you know, they've got totally free reign with this. It's just a really small project. So I think it's kind of brought them back to working in that, you know, back in the sort of small studio setting. And yeah, they couldn't have been more encouraging. Like, I can't wait to just get on stage and do a couple of gigs with them, because again, I'll be fronting a much more professional outfit. But they'd be brilliant.
It's the way it happens sometimes. You get things like that. Just it's quite often you find quite interesting connections through just meeting people.
Oh, exactly. Like, it's, and especially because Manchester's not, you know, it's a small place really, and once you find somebody, they'll introduce somebody else, and it's like a classic not what you know but who you know scenario. But it's been great. I
noticed, I mean, last year when I first started doing this podcast, and this year as well, I've noticed that there's definitely a new kind of movement and enthusiasm for music around Manchester and that sort of, and the north and that sort of way. There's a lot of bands coming out of there at the moment that are really good bands.
I think that's it. I think there's it feels like a bit of a revival. Well, there's always that sort of Manchester revival thing that happens every, like, I don't know, 20 years, but there's a lot of really good younger bands. Like, I feel in a bit of an odd position because I'm a bit older. I'm like, well, I'm new to doing this, but also I was around the first, you know, I've got my bucket hat from the first time, so it's a funny one. But there's a good, like, a couple of really good new little labels coming out. There's always like loads of nostalgia around Manchester, and there's a few bands I think that kind of go in for that, but they still sound great. Like, you know, Oasis were a nostalgia band for the Beatles, but you know, there's always this like rolling thing. But it does feel like a great place to be making music, and people are friendly and bands are great. So yeah, it's I think it is a new wave.
Yeah. Well, no, I was listening through your songs and looking through your videos on the YouTube channel. I really like Fly. I think it's a great song, and I really like that you've got a live version of it.
Yeah, so the live
was really good.
Oh, that's really kind of you. So that live version was the first time I'd got all my bits of equipment together to try and decide how I was going to play live, because a lot of these songs are big with loads of synth parts, and you know, I record my voice 50 times just because I'm not sure about it, you know, so there's a lot of layers. But I think now I've got the right kit, I can kind of recreate those sounds a little bit live, you know, in their own way. So yeah, Fly was quite a good one to tackle as my first live one.
No, I mean, it's got a really good sound to it, and I like the video. Quite often with live videos, especially if they're not super professionally done, the sound doesn't come across very well, but it really does on yours.
Oh, that's so good, though, because it literally is me in my cellar with 2 iPads and microphones. It's a very amateur job, so it's really kind of you to say that. Thank you. A bit of editing.
A little bit of time goes by again, just sitting on your own. And you could use to fly or sing or cry when talking on the phone. A happy little fly goes by again, just searching for a stone where she can go to hide herself before she flies back to her home. What is love with nothing but a firelights burning embers for a higher life? I never thought I'd walk this road again. What is love with nothing but a firelights burning embers for a higher life? I never thought I'd walk this road again. Twilights burning, embers fall. A higher life I never saw. I walk this road again.
And you've got some like home filmed or home made versions of some of your songs on there. One of those that I really liked was If You're Feeling Down.
Oh yeah, I think that was it.
Such a good song.
That's really kind. Oh, thank you so much. Well, yeah, again, little lockdown number. And again, it's me with several iPads trying to make things. Well, no, actually, I've only got one iPad, but hanging them up at different places. But that homemade feel to the music as well as the video, like that's kind of, I can't afford to go and get big. Nobody can unless they've, I don't know what they've get some money from a parent. I don't know where everyone gets some money from, but yeah, I can't afford great big professional productions. But I don't know if you need it these days. I think if you're just doing your thing and you're doing your gigs and making, there's so much software you can use and so much stuff you can do. It's not going to look pro, but people get the idea of who you are and what you're about. So I think that's, until somebody comes along with £100,000 budget and a beach and everything else, I'll be ready.
Yeah. So I was wondering what your influences were, because you do have a few covers on the channel. The one cover that I kind of was the cover of River.
Oh yeah, so JeanMichel is like a massive number one hero of mine. I think she's completely amazing, and she's just so weird. It's like her voice is amazing, but it's not conventional in any way. There's nobody sounds like her.
No.
And a bit like Kate Bush, there's a few other people. You just think like they're so brave to not care. Like I've cared for so long. Oh, my voice doesn't sound like this person or this person. Whereas they just sound completely unique. So yeah, absolutely love JeanMichel. I love her guitar, everything about her stuff. Like I've got kind of two camps of things I love. Like anything from Dylan, folky stuff like Burt Jansch, all that sort of era of folky guitar and harmonies. But then I absolutely love anything with synths, like so anything from New Order onwards. Like I love Churches. I can't, when someone asks you what do you like, you're like, oh, I don't know everything, but I really love those synth sounds, and almost like when synths are used, almost like when synths are used to replace instruments. But it doesn't have to be like, I sort of love the inauthentic sound sometimes, like a synth trying to be something.
Yeah,
just really nostalgic, that sound for me, of like films. And what's that film? There's a film with an amazing soundtrack that I can't remember what it is now. Yeah, I can. The film. Have you ever seen the film Witness with Harrison Ford in it? It's got is it Maurice Jarre? I think that's the name of the guy. But the soundtrack is like, and I must have watched it when I was little, and you pick up all these sounds, but the soundtrack is all synthesized really badly. If you would say, if you were like, if you're trying to create something that sounds real, but it just sounds, it's got its own unique kind of almost like computer game sound, and it's brilliant.
The thing is that when the keyboards like that first came out, a lot of people tried to make them sound like orchestras, and
that's it, yeah.
And then you had the bands came out in the sort of like the late 70s, 80s, that sort of thing. People like Depeche Mode, and as you say, and people like that, who just wanted to use it as the synth sound.
Yeah, and it's incredible.
And of course, a lot of that's influenced by the German thing, Kraftwerk and bands like that.
Definitely, yeah.
But no, I love all that sort of stuff. I really do. It fascinates me how you can use these sounds that are not musical instruments to build up something that's so musical.
Oh yeah, it is and sometimes you just get lucky. You just choose a sound and you think, like, that's what happened with that Fly song. I was actually listening, Kraftwerk's Autobahn came on the radio, and I heard that, and then I for some reason, like Antiques Roadshow was on the TV and it had a brass band on it, and like those sounds came melded in my head. I was like, oh, this and this, and then you find the synth and you're like, yeah, that's the one. But it's, I think that's exactly the thing. I think that thing of trying to make them sound like real instruments, but they don't, left you with a load of keyboards from like the 90s and stuff.
Yeah.
That just have incredible sounds. They're really synthetic sounding, but they're really nostalgic because they don't sound like the real thing. they just sound like what was on telly then, or like what was happening at the time. And because I think because I've started writing so late, like a lot of the songs are nostalgic and the sounds are coming from a different place. So I love those sounds.
I mean, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I think one of the reasons that British are so accepting of the synth sound is because of the fact that most generations up to a point until there was a gap in it, most generations grew up with Doctor Who.
It's so true. That is absolutely true. And what sound?
That soundtrack to that, which was all synthesized and electronic,
I think you're so right. And then I think that like loads of children's TV had those kind of soundtracks, especially like just thinking 90s things like Nightmare and all these programs we love. They took loads from that. Yeah, but that's really true. That Doctor Who soundtrack it's mind blowing, that tune, and it's all late, like not, it's all really synthetic and layered, but it's brilliant. No, I completely agree.
So I love River. I like JeanMichel anyway. It's interesting you've got that mix though, that sort of the synth side and the folk side, because that's normally they're kind of they're not two things that kind of go together.
No, not at all. And at first, when I first started writing, I really separated them. I had some sort of synthy, poppy stuff, and I had just me and a guitar. And just more and more, I was like, no, I want to make synth folk. It sounds like a sort of weird 70s thing, but like I want to bring those things together, because synths don't have to be harsh. They can be layered and twinkly and really nice, or they can be harsh and so trying to get I'm always going to be a folky singer. That's just what my voice is like. And I love harmonies and I love layering voices. So that's always going to be there. So it was just molding the two things. And I haven't heard a lot of music that does that. So I quite like that challenge of thinking, well, can you put the two things together so one thing doesn't jar on the other? Because you could very easily go one way or the other.
Yeah. And
it wouldn't work. So that's always my mission, to be like, right, how can I make that song how I want to make it? I don't just want to shoehorn synths into stuff, but normally there's just a sound that comes along and like, oh yeah, that just adds to it.
See, I do think it's interesting. As you say, you can have the hard sound with synths. You can also have things like, I think one of the people that kind of was responsible for showing people you could do this was JeanMichel Jarre and also Giorgio Moroder.
Yes, I don't know so well, but
orchestral sort of sound. If you listen to the things like Never Ending Story.
Oh yeah, of course, it's a perfect soundtrack. Yeah,
I mean that soundtrack is all synth, but it's all very orchestral and very flowing.
Yeah,
and it's not that hard sort of like synth sound, but it's all played on synths. So it's just so evocative
of something, and it is a lot to do with films and TV. I think a lot of what I'm writing is kind of a bit soundtracky slightly, rather than a straight up song. But a lot of it comes from that. Those sorts of things. Never Ending Story. Oh, I've got to watch that again now. It's absolutely brilliant. The music in that is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good. The other ones that I really liked, I mean, not that I didn't like any of the others, but it was
everyone's. It was very nice that you like any of them.
The Beyond I liked.
Oh yeah, so that's the latest single. That took a long, that's one of the first songs I wrote, and it's taken a long time to become a sort of to actually get finished, because it was that was a very guitar-y song at the beginning. It was very sort of folky, and it didn't have a lot of other stuff in it, and it never quite got to where I wanted. It is now, now it's released, it's there. But The Beyond is a song that I think is one of the earliest ones I wrote, and I'm really glad it has stayed in the mix and it's now come out as a single, because it did take a while to finish.
The other one was Holds Me Down.
Oh yeah, so that was my first ever single, and which started this whole thing off. So I wrote that a while ago, and that was another case of just finding the perfect synth. I think it was a garage band synth. It wasn't even, it was again, it was one on bit of software. It wasn't anything special, but it was finding that sound that I suddenly was like, oh, right, okay, finally I've got the synth sound and the vocal sound that I wanted. And then, so as a first single, I think that was quite a good calling card. Like, this is what I'm about.
It goes really well together, and it does. It sounds really good. And the other one was Don't Go.
Oh, that's had mixed opinions because it's so weird. But yeah, that was one of the times when, I don't know if this is ever a good thing to do. I've heard like authors do it sometimes with their books. So like, don't edit me. I just want to do what I want. Oh, right. So I did a lot of the production of that myself. And it was supposed to be kind of Beatlesy. Like I was really into like Sgt Prepper at the time, having a bit of a Beatles revival. And yeah, it's very difficult to perform that live. I've been trying, but I don't.
There is a lot to it. I mean, I must admit,
it's kind of like a kid's song and a breakdown. And I don't know. I really don't know what it was. But again, sometimes you just got to go. I'm like, I think it's got all these parts. Here it goes. But I haven't managed a live version just yet, but I am working on it. But I'm really glad you like that, because
I do. It's
amuse some people.
So have you got new material you're working on? I know you said that the Fly EP isn't out yet, but it will be soon. But have you got newer material that you're working on as well?
Yeah, so there's the 3 more songs coming out with that will be out hopefully between July and September. I'm just going to get that all finished. And then I've actually got a great big bank of songs. Like in lockdown, I did go a bit mad for it and wrote loads of stuff, and some of it it's all on SoundCloud if anyone wants to listen to it. Test Car Girl SoundCloud. Some of it is really poor, but I just everything I wrote, I just slapped on there. I was like, right, come on, just get it all out and put it in there. So I've kind of got about 30 songs that I am either going to throw in the bin or make into something. And I wrote them because about 2 years ago now. So at the time of writing, they were what they were, but now I'm a bit more confident, and I've got working with great airtight studios in Chorlton with a great producer, Shane McFile. So now, like, I've got that team, I can start bringing some of those back, and they might be like, these are rubbish, what were you thinking? But yeah, so I've got quite a good bank, and then I'm always like noodling about and thinking of ideas and things. But I think my next thing will be when this EP comes out, then I'm going to focus on performance quite a lot, because that's the bit that I haven't done so much of, with a view to maybe like another EP early next year. But like really just I'm going to kind of keep bringing out singles every couple of months or so, because that's kind of how the model now, isn't it? That's what you got to do.
Yeah, most of the bands I've talked to have said about that they bring out sort of a few singles and then maybe an EP and that sort of thing. I think the whole focus on full albums is sort of moving away now. I think so. Unless you're going to release it on actual kind of physical
like vinyl or something,
vinyl or something like that, then I think it's a little bit sort of beyond. I mean, most people just sort of like don't want to do that much of a release in one go.
I think that's it. I think like because of streaming models and everything like that, unless you're signed to a label and they're going to pay for you to do your album and put it out on vinyl, which yes, that would be enjoyable. I think you're right. It's kind of, it seems to be EPs or shorter albums or singles that is the way forward. It would be nice if things went back. I would love to do that, like crafting an album and the order of it and everything else.
You can still do that. You can release on vinyl quite, that
would be brilliant. I'd love to release vinyl. It's the cost of it though, really. Like I think, I'd have to look into that, but yeah, I would love to hold my own vinyl, even if I just have one of my own. Like this is mine. That would be great.
You just said about the streaming platforms and things, and I was just wondering, because the interesting thing at the moment, I think, for me, is that we're in a situation where anybody can produce whatever music they want and get it out there to the public. But the streaming platforms seem to want you to define yourself by telling them what genre of music you play. Yeah. So what do you class what you do as?
No, there's no genre for like midlife crisis, which is what my genre is. So I think it's really difficult because I think some things of mine would be like indie pop and some would be straight up folk and some would be the synth folk thing of my own. So I generally just go like indie is a big coverall for everything, which is silly because it's not really one genre, is it? But so I generally go sort of indie and then indie folk and then maybe synth pop, and then all together in that encapsulates
indie electro folk.
Indie electro folk. I like that. Yeah, indie synth electro. There's a bit of electro in it. Yeah, I'd like to keep the electro in there. Very difficult, but yeah, unless you're sort of commercial pop or something really clear, some sort of dance genre, which I wouldn't know much about. It is quite tricky, and it's great that thing that everyone could put their music out. But then I suppose it's so much music that to break through that must be incredibly hard. But it depends what your aims are, really, isn't it? Like, if you want to be a massive superstar, then good luck.
One day on my mind and a rhythm in my head says don't go back, take another road instead. 2 times I denied and another in my head, don't go, no, no, don't go. 3 days on my mind and a rhythm in my head says don't go back, take another road instead. 4 times I denied and another in my head, don't go, no, no, don't go. I'll be fine if there's time, don't go, no, no, don't go. If I find there's a sign, don't go, no, no, don't go. 5, 6, 7 felt like heaven, and I won't let another day die. And 8, 9, 10 is a world of men, and I won't let another day lie. I'll be 5, 6, 7 felt like heaven, don't go, no, another day die. If I 8, 9, 10 is a world of men, don't go, no, another day lie. One day on my mind and a rhythm in my head says don't go back, take another road instead. 2 times I denied and another in my head, don't go, no, no, don't go.
So what about the live performance? I mean, you said you want to step up doing live performances. Are you aiming to do just locally at the moment, and then
So
see where
yeah,
that goes?
I haven't got a very good strategy for this. So what I'm basically doing at the moment is saying yes to anything that comes my way. But so I've got like local. I've got a few gigs lined up sort of over the next few weeks and months. A little festival on called Neck of the Woods on Saturday. And I'm supporting Darren Hayman on the 30th of June at Gulliver's in Manchester. So a few little bits and bobs coming up. But really, what I need to do is understand how these things work and how people do, without a booking agent. It's all still a bit of a mystery to me, the whole performing.
It used to be the thing of like, you'd record a few tracks on a CD or a cassette or something, and just send a load of them out to the local pubs and clubs and say, do you want to book us for the night? I
would wish that was still the way. Imagine I might just get some cassettes. I've got some cassettes actually. I might just start sending them out and do a whole like revival of this is if you want me, you've got to listen to this. But yeah, I think now there's a really good few promoters in Manchester, and like some of them have been really kind enough to give me gigs. So I think starting off there is great, and then I think festival bookings are brilliant if you can get them. And it just I think you just have to be your own marketer and promoter, and that I sort of hate that bit of it, and I'm not very good on social media, and all that makes me a bit sick. But I think that unless people see you perform, you're not gonna get that following or get out there, and other promoters aren't gonna come and see you, so you've got to just do it, really, I think.
I mean, it is possible to build up a following online and that kind of thing, but I think, personally for me, performing is a completely different animal to recording and putting music out, and it's a much more, it's that thing of that kind of instant response between you and the audience. It's
completely different than anything. Like, not that I've done a lot of it, but it has been an amazing experience. And I think, again, maybe if I was a bit younger, but I sort of can't bring myself to make content. I just can't do that and put loads of videos on. I don't know. Sometimes I do, but I think you know what? I'd rather have 50 people who'd come to gigs all the time and want new music than, I say this now, than a million people. But I just think I can't. I'm never going to sustain that social media thing because I find it unbearable. And if I didn't have to have social media for this, I wouldn't have it at all. because I don't know. I think if we didn't grow up with it, you don't find it as essential as it is essential. I know for loads of stuff and for marketing, but yeah, I think live performance and building up that following, and the best thing about that is whenever I've done a gig, people have come and found me on social media and they've said they've enjoyed it, or we've had a chat at the end, and that means the world. Like one person saying that song meant the world to me is amazing. Like that's enough. That's the best thing for me. So if that can happen, or someone coming up and say that was rubbish, improve, but at least they've said to you, you've got to.
It's nice to know that they've actually listened.
Yeah, nice that they've listened and taken it in, and yeah, I think a part like the good thing about doing stand up for a bit was like thinking on your feet and having to like some of the in between chat of the songs, like you can kind of try and make that a bit more chatty, and that sort of comes reasonably naturally. So
it's quite funny, really, because you kind of, I was just thinking, it just suddenly struck me, you kind of gone the opposite way to Billy Connolly. Billy Connolly started off as a folk musician who used to tell jokes in between songs.
Yeah.
And ended up as a comedian, and you've gone kind of the other way.
That's it, at a much smaller scale. Yeah. Oh, but if I could get as big as Billy, but musical, that'd be amazing. That would suit me. That's so true. But yeah, it was a good like baptism of fire to do that first.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, and I think the live thing, I think it's just a case of putting yourself out there, and I think self-promotion for people is or some people are great at it, but I find it hideous. But you've if you're doing something, you've got to believe in it, haven't you? You've just got to go and say to promoters, here's my stuff, here's my video in my cellar. Do you like it? If not, don't worry. But the
good thing is if you can get somebody who can record stuff, like backstage stuff, or when you're record little bits of video and then put that up on TikTok or something.
I mean, oh god, TikTok scares the life out of me. But
somebody else to do that for you,
that would be ideal. I do have a much younger sister, so I could sort of force her to come and be my OnPage assistant, which she basically is anyway.
But yeah,
not force her, but kindly suggest that she comes and helps her embarrassing sister. No, she's brilliant. I'm sure she'd do that. But yeah, I think that is because that TikTok is the way, apparently, isn't it? But so. I also. I don't really understand that. I just need to download it.
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I had it on my phone for a while and I just didn't get it. I
don't know. I don't even like taking selfies, so I find it like, but yeah, I mean, again, if things go well and I can get a little team of people eventually and a manager and everything else who know about all this sort of stuff, I guess it gets to a stage where you don't have to do it yourself. Someone will be like, we're filming this. Oh, great. But that would be a bit of a pipe dream. But yeah, I think I do. I think I'm on that funny stage of like, oh, if I really want to do this now, I've messed about with it, I've put stuff out, I've done things in a kind of casual way, but if I do want to take it to the next level, I've got to.
You do have other important things going on in your life at the moment, which may actually get in the way of this.
This is correct. My bump is not visible currently on the screen, but I am expecting my first child in November, so that is going to he or she is going to change things a little bit. And I run a business on my day job. I run a childcare business, so that is also quite busy. So yeah, there's other things happening, mainly the baby. But hopefully, first, I don't know if they don't need a lot. You just have to look after them, and they're quite quiet, aren't they? So maybe they can come to gigs. I don't know.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm completely clueless.
I am reliably informed that sleepless nights are very good for songwriting.
I think, see, in lockdown, I was basically didn't go to sleep for the whole thing because I was so worried about other financial things. So I think extreme stress is quite good artistically for me. And luckily, I've got a lovely other half who will step up when I go off to gigs, hopefully.
Well, that's good.
No, he definitely will. So yeah, hopefully I can keep it going. It's all a bit frightening. It's quite typical of my own disorganization to just do everything in the same year, to try and become a, I was going to say pop star. That's obviously not going to happen, but to try and become a musical entity and have a kid.
What you've got to do now is make sure you don't book anything on
Yeah, well, exactly on the week, which again, it's the sort of thing I would do. If I could be fine, 4th of November, it'd be fine because it's due on the 5th. I've realised in this whole process, I don't really understand anything about how these things work. I've taken no interest in childbirth my whole life, and suddenly I'm like, oh, need to understand a bit more about biology and other things. Yeah, but it'll be all right. These things are always all right.
I'm sure you'll find a way through.
Well, I'm lucky. I've got a lovely family. I'm lucky with the support I've got. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do half the bonkers things that I've tried. So, fingers crossed.
There may be times when you cannot see, times when the strength to be has fallen away, and in those times of shadowy hills to climb, hold out your hand to mine and look for the day. And if you're feeling down, I need a reason why, remember that you're loved, and love will never die. Take a step, the next can be just a breath, to rise from unknown depths, the change of the tide. And all around, the sun sits behind its clouds, a constant without sound that can never die. And if you're feeling down, I need a reason why, remember that you're loved, and love will never die. And if you're feeling down, I need a reason why, remember that you're loved, and love will never die.
I wish you all the best with the baby and with your musical career.
Oh, thank you very much.
I really enjoy the stuff you do. It's really nice.
Thank you.
I don't know what it's one of those weird things. It's kind of like it's nice to find different music.
Oh, well, I agree, because I do the same quite a lot as well, and I'm really glad that it's sort of resonated as being a bit different, because that's what I hope. So I'm really glad about that.
Yeah,
thank you.
No, it's really good. It's been lovely to talk to you.
You too, thank you.
And thank you very much. And I will put links up to social media and YouTube channel and all that kind of thing, so that people watching can check your stuff out and see what you're doing and keep up to date with where you are with everything. All the best with the pregnancy, and all the best with the music and everything else. And maybe we can talk again at some point.
That'll be amazing. Well, thanks for everything you do supporting new music. It's podcasts like this that get other people, listeners in from afar. So we really appreciate it.
I try my best in my small way.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
So, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody for listening and watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Talking Music with Big and